Hey folks, it's Fernando doing another video here for the Modern Survivalist, and this is going to be one of those must-watch videos. And I don't say it all the time, but whenever I do say it's like a must-watch video, I do mean it. And I just say that in videos that I think are really important because the chances of you going through something relevant to what's going to be covered in this video are pretty much unavoidable. You are going to be going through something like this. This is going to be a video about unnecessary surgery, unnecessary medical treatments. And unfortunately, the chances of that happening to you in your lifetime are very, very high. It's practically unavoidable that at some point you will have to make the decision, either for yourself, for one of your loved ones, maybe even your own kids. You will have to decide. And the thing is this: we usually, for example, when you walk into a bank or a financial institution, you sort of understand what you're dealing with. You understand that a bank, it's basically about a business, and they're just looking to make money. They're not really looking after you. They're just basically looking how to make the most amount of money. And if that somewhat goes along with keeping you happy as a client, that's great. But the priority is making money. Now, when you walk into a doctor's office, you don't think that way. You think that a doctor is first going to be looking after your well-being. That's going to be his first priority, and then he's going to be charging you, of course. But you're not thinking about it being someone, a doctor or a hospital, first thinking about profit, making as much money out of you as possible, and then somewhat about your well-being. And unfortunately, you really should be thinking like that, because that's exactly what happens. 44% of surgeries, and this is according to many of these institutions themselves, 44% have been done unnecessarily. 44% of surgeries have been done unnecessarily. So I'm going to be going through some of those numbers, but I thought it would be interesting first to go through some of my personal encounters with this kind of thing. In recent years that I can remember, 5 different cases in which myself or my wife or one of my kids were very close to actually going under the knife for no reason whatsoever. First one was because of a wrist cyst. When I was a few years ago, actually, yeah, I was boxing. Well, when I was still boxing, I got a cyst here in my wrist. You know, like a little egg, like a little bubble there. And I didn't think much of it, but I went to the doctor and have it checked. Actually, my mother took me to a specialist because she was worried that it would be something bad. And the first time that this happened, I was still in high school, I think, and I didn't think much of it. But then I got a bigger one, and my mother said, "Yeah, we'll go to a specialist and have it checked." And we went to the best, you know, the most famous, renowned hand doctor in Buenos Aires. And the guy took a look, saw some of the tests, some of the X-rays and such, and he said, you know, you need this taken care of right away. You need surgery right now. And we were like, what? I've had this for a few years now. No big deal. No problem. And he said, you know, you could lose sensitivity, you could lose movement, you could end up even losing the entire hand if that bursts, if that breaks. And that sounded scary enough. We went to check with another specialist. The other specialist was not as dramatic, but still was recommending maybe having it removed, the cyst in the wrist. I mean, it's just like you have liquid here in your wrist and your articulations, and if it breaks a little bit, it starts making like a bubble on the outside. But in general, it's not a problem. I ignored all this advice and just forgot about it. And a few months later, while boxing, punching hard, I don't know if it was sparring or with a heavy bag, just burst it. I didn't even feel anything. It just went away. Just as it had appeared, it just went away. And as you see, I still have my hand there without any mobility problems. The second time, or the second incident that I remember was, a few years ago, not really that long ago. I was still in Buenos Aires. man, what, 5 years ago maybe, probably, and I was having respiratory problems. I was getting sick pretty much every winter, very seriously so. I actually had pneumonia once, and I usually ended up with antibiotics. I was having this whistling thing when breathing sometimes, and pretty much kept for all winter this whistling sound when breathing in and out. So I went to a doctor, had the tests done and such, and I was told, you have asthma. I said, that's strange, 30 years old, all of a sudden I have asthma. I never realized. Yes, happens all the time. You have asthma because of this and that. And and I was even told, I was giving different medications that I should be taking, some precautions, some things to keep in mind. I was actually given one of those inhalers for when I had a problem breathing. The doctor told me, and I told her, but I don't have a problem breathing in and out. Actually, whenever I do physical activity, I breathe in and out much better. That's not one of the problems I have. And I was told, you just have it, and whenever you have, it's like this doctors, and this happens very often, it's as if they're not listening to what you're saying. They're just repeating something that it's as if you are a ghost, and whatever it is that you're saying doesn't compute in their brains. So she kept telling me what I should be doing, so I left and paid no attention to her whatsoever. And I don't have asthma. It's as simple as that. But this woman was, this doctor, not just a woman that I came across in the street, but she was ready to give me a ton of medication, give me an inhaler for my asthma problem. Now I live in maybe one of the dampest places in the planet. I don't have any respiratory problems. I actually don't even get sick much anymore. Probably because of Buenos Aires, more people, and the problems in Latin American countries with more diseases floating around, obviously so. I really don't get sick. I can't remember the last time I was sick or needed any kind of medication, even with a flu. No problems whatsoever. Another incident I remember well was also still in Buenos Aires. My wife, she had these palpitation or skipped beats type of things, and we went to have it checked, and the doctor told her that she needed to have a procedure done, a cardiac angioplasty. They put a little little tube inside you, and they burn little nerves, a little nerve in your heart. And we were told that it was a pretty safe procedure, and that it would stop the problem that she had. It would fix her problem, and that if we didn't do that, she was risking a heart attack or God knows what else. Pretty much, we were being told that she could die any moment if she didn't have this angioplasty done. Now we checked with a family friend that is a renowned cardiologist. No problem whatsoever. She had nothing, and this was completely unnecessary. Another procedure that she really didn't need. Also, and this was when I was a kid, when I was much smaller. My parents took me to the orthopedics, so as we have the special shoes, for fixing when you're walking improperly and such. I had that, but one of the things that the orthopedist told my parents was that I needed surgery as well. My brother and I think that for both of us, the doctor recommended having surgery done to our knees or our legs, and of course my parents didn't pay any attention to that. But I know of actually a kid that had surgery done to his knees, unnecessarily so, and he ended up having ruined legs for as long as I know. He ended up not walking properly, having growth problems because of all this surgery, because the first one didn't work well. These things, when you get unnecessary surgery, it never ends up working well, so you need to have it done again. This is all just more money being taken away from you and more unnecessary surgery being done to you. And people that have their lives ruined to a great extent because of that. Finally, one more that I remember quite vividly, and this is very important because it's still happening in the United States a lot, which is circumcision. Circumcision is basically male genital mutilation. You're cutting away something from a healthy baby that does not need to be cut off. And this happened with my first son. We're humans. You know what a human body basically is like because you know yourself. But at the same time, and this even happens for guys. You're a man, and you understand the male body because you know yourself. But you don't know exactly how a baby is like unless you actually do a little bit of research and look into that. So when you're a first-time parent, you have this little baby that is like a little alien because it's different from what an adult looks like, and you basically remember yourself in adulthood. With a baby, there's lots of different things that you don't exactly know how it's like, and that always happens for a first-time parent. First-time parents always have this, discovering all these new things. Now, we had our baby. We were doing some of the first. This happened in the first few months. We took my first son, my oldest son, to the pediatrician, and she was looking over him. And she grabbed his penis, looked at it like that, and she said, you see the problem here? It's not, the skin is not pulling back fully as it should. And man, I looked at her and I knew exactly what she was doing. I knew exactly what she was going for. And I said, well, what's the problem? It looks normal to me. And she said, no, but you see how it doesn't, the foreskin doesn't pull back. This is closing, and he will not be able to urinate properly because of that. And I said, what are you saying? You're saying he needs a circumcision? And she said, yes, that's exactly what he needs. And I was so angry. I was so pissed because I knew exactly what she was going for. I knew exactly what she wanted to do, and I knew exactly that it was completely unnecessary. So, I was one of the times I was the most angry towards someone. I was glad that it was a woman, because with a guy maybe it would have ended bad. And I told her to her face that I knew what she was doing, that I didn't appreciate that, and that we were never gonna be coming back with her. They were gonna be looking for someone else, because what she was doing was very much wrong, and she shouldn't be doing it. Said and done. We found a new pediatrician. He looked at it and he said, this baby is perfectly normal. He has no problem whatsoever. The foreskin in a baby, in case you don't know, it does not retract fully. It just has a little hole because it's not supposed to retract as it does in an adult. It stays around, and as a child starts growing up, and maybe little by little it starts detaching. The foreskin starts detaching from the head of the penis, and it starts moving back and forth like it happens in any normal male. But the thing is that, and this may be a little bit different for you guys in the United States, because most adults, most male adults in the United States have had circumcision, also unnecessarily so. But I think that as of right now, it's 80% of males in the United States have had circumcision. And fortunately, this is going down steadily. I think that as of right now, it's about 55% or 50% of boys are being circumcised after birth. I have the numbers here. But this is not common at all anywhere else. Well, at least not in South America, in Europe. It's not common. Only in Muslim African countries they have these high percentage of circumcisions. But if not, there's really no reason so as to do some cut a perfectly healthy baby in that way. There's really no need, and it's you know what? One of the first times that I realized I started looking into all this was because of watching American comedy movies. I think it was, which one? American Pie, in which there's this kid, the teenager, that he's watching a porn movie, and he's in bed. Or many times it happens in comedy that they show a guy that is watching something on TV, and he has like a Kleenex paper, tissue paper, and he has some kind of lubricant next to it. And for those of us that are not Americans, that's extremely weird. I mean, we get the joke, we understand the joke about the tissue paper and the guy watching the movie in bed, but we don't understand the lubricant part. And that's because when you haven't been cut that way, when you haven't been circumcised, there's no need for any lubricant of any kind. That's all in the foreskin. That's what actually the foreskin is for. And it's also a very important part of normal sexual relationships as well, which is something that people that have been cut in such a way no longer are capable of. They don't have that anymore, and there's, I mean, man, it's incredible, but it's a very interesting topic as well to read and learn about all these things, so as to know why you are being hurt to such an extent, and what's being taken away from you. The nerve endings are being cut away from you. It's unbelievable. A ton of information, and it's way beyond what I could cover in such a video, but there's no reason whatsoever, any kind of reason. All those medical explanations, I've done a bit of research online and such. I've actually done a lot of it, but I did just right now a little bit more so as to see what's floating around, and some people are still, and there's always these agendas. Keep in mind that this is a $240 million a year industry, just mutilating perfectly healthy babies. $240 million a year. And this is not taking into account what money they make by selling the foreskin that they're cutting away, which is actually very valuable. The foreskin itself, it's a $2 billion industry because of skin grafts, because of the cosmetic industry. Very interesting to read all about that. But it's basically about money, and it's basically about keeping this going. So, yeah, and man, a risk of death as well for a baby. Between 150, 200 babies a year die in the United States alone just because of this unnecessary male mutilation, which you'd never consider doing it to a female baby, yet on a male it's considered normal. And what I was saying before about this lie about the health benefits of circumcision, complete lie. There's no basis for that whatsoever. And you have the perfect example when you compare to the United States, where you have 80% of adult males haven't been circumcised, and you look at Europe, where 10% or less of males have been circumcised, and there's no difference whatsoever in terms of actually there's less AIDS, less sexual transmitted diseases, and less complications in European males that have not been circumcised compared to the ones in the United States. It's basically about normal, healthy habits and basic sexual education that anyone in the developed world would have. And sometimes they bring up these statistics of African countries where people in very different realities live in, and they try to come up with these statistics to justify that which is unjustifiable. There's no reason whatsoever to cut a baby, to mutilate a baby in such a way. Going back to the unnecessary surgery, which are some of the most common unnecessary surgeries being done in the United States? Number one, cardiovascular angioplasty. 2011, 12% have been done unnecessarily so when researched afterwards. 12%, that's crazy. Cardiac pacemaker, 22%, 22.5%, no medical evidence to support the need for such a surgery. All right, of cardiac pacemakers in 2011 in the United States, 22.5% did not have any medical evidence to support the need of such a surgery. Back surgery and spinal fusion. This is a common one. I know of people that have had this done, and man, very suspicious circumstances. 17%, no medical evidence to support the need for such a surgery. Still, it had been done. It has been increasing since since in the last few years, it went from 190,000 back surgeries and spinal fusions to 300,000, almost basically over 50% more surgeries of back surgery and spinal fusion from one year to the next. I don't know how to say this in English. Hysterectomy, which is a uterus removal. In the year 2000, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said that 70% of the uterus removals have been done unnecessarily because there wasn't even an attempt to first do non-surgical approach to it. All right, let's go back to it. In case of hysterectomies, which is a removal of the uterus in women, in the year 2000, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said that 70% of those surgeries have been done unnecessarily so. Knee and hip replacement, another very common surgery that is done without any supporting medical evidence. And this, you know what, this is a very common procedure that was being done in Spain a few years ago when there was a boom in replacing knees and hips in Spain. Doctors were being told, were telling their patients that they should have it done right away. It was all being covered, you know, by the free medical care. And my mother was actually, my mom was actually telling me the other day about this 60-year-old woman that was being, that had been talking to her and had been told by the doctor that her knees would be going back to how they were when she was 20 years old if she had her knees replaced. Now, how stupid can that be? And how misguided can that be? What kind of doctor tells a 60-year-old patient that she will be having the knees of a 20-year-old by having a knee replacement? And finally, another very common surgery being done unnecessarily, a Cesarean section. 1 in 3 women that are giving birth in the United States, 1 in 3 in the United States get C-sections. About 5 to 10% of births being with C-sections. That's somewhat normal. In the United States right now, 32.8% of women are giving birth through C-sections, and this is of the year 2011. Now, in the United States, in the year 1965, it was only 4.5% of women giving birth through C-sections. All right, again, 4.5% in the year 1965, 2011, 32.8% of women are giving birth through C-section in the United States. Why is that? Very simple. A normal birth, it's $6,000. C-section at the very least $12,000. It's a $7 billion a year industry. How much money is it that they're getting out of this? And you understand, you crunch the numbers, $7 billion bucks. So of course you're going to be having 1 in 3 women going through this medical process. So folks, I just wanted to do this video, and especially about all these things, especially, you know what, for parents. I was just reading a message that I got a couple days ago by a viewer that was telling me that he's excited about being a dad soon. Man, do not do circumcision to your kids. Do not cut them up in such a way. It's barbaric. It's genital mutilation in its worst way. If you're still not convinced about it, there's not even religious reasons for us to do it. There was a great video in YouTube about this Jewish mom saying, and she was making a great point, that religion is not in the tip of his son's penis, you know. So she was not going to be cutting it because of that. And there's really no basis for that. And the complications that I mean, watch one of the videos. If you're even thinking about doing something like this, which is madness, there's no debate, there's no decision to be made, there's no explanation, there's no excuse for doing something as barbaric. But if you have any doubt, watch one first. If you can, watch one firsthand, see what it's like, and see how it looks like afterwards. Lots of women, because of course, well, women don't know exactly how it is, and unfortunately they realize only afterwards. Many women regret they have been not so sure about doing it or not, and only after they see how brutal it is, they realize their mistake. Watch how it looks like afterwards. It is mutilation. You're cutting away a part of a child's penis, which is very small, and it really leaves an awful display. It's a part of the organ which is internal that's suddenly becoming external. I was reading a forum, one of these mom type of forums where they talk about babies, and there was this desperate woman saying, you know, that his son had this raw penis, all red and painful, and she was pretty desperate about it, and lots of mothers started commenting in the same thread. You know, typical thing when threads start getting more posts, more comments, and all the mothers were saying the same thing. Yes, my son is going through the same thing, and you were all pretty desperate. And this woman suddenly comments, man, I'm glad I didn't have my son go through that. I'm glad I didn't get the circumcision for my son. Seeing all the comments that I'm reading here. And all the mothers started saying, well, that's not very constructive, or they got all like pissed with the mom. And she was actually making a great point. I mean, she had made the right decision by not mutilating her son in such a way. But, you know, the way they scream when they get something like that done, it's extremely traumatic. It's even being linked to sudden infant death syndrome. It's being linked to autism. You're basically ruining the child's sex life as an adult, because they're losing, and there's no two ways about it. You're losing 50% of your sensitivity with this barbaric act. So yeah, for you guys, especially that you are about to become dads, it is your responsibility. It's not that because you're a male you don't have a right to decide on your son's future. It's actually the other way around. Folks, a video that I really want to do because I think it's very important. Be very wise about the decisions, and ultimately it's up to you. The responsibility, just like it is for everything else regarding survival and preparedness, it is your responsibility. It's your responsibility to keep your family safe. It's your responsibility to be ready for all these things that I talk about in all my other videos. I talk about in my books. In my books, by the way, the links are below there as well. It is all your responsibility, and this is no different. This is no different, absolutely. When you sit with a doctor and you start bullshitting you, it is your responsibility to know that. And ultimately, it is you who has to decide. All right, folks, take care. As always, subscribe and share the video, please. I think it's important. See you on our next video. Have a great day.